Purple Rain, the movie, changed my life.
I'm tired of movie remakes. Great segue, right? Like, why are they remaking everything? I already saw it, truly. Who was that new Lion King for? What child saw the original Lion King and was like, I mean, I get that they're lions, but oh boy, they were not realistic enough. Who was it for? And then Beyonce was Nala? Who signed off on that? Who thought that was a good idea? Simba, let's go to the watering hole. That was a good idea. And if you don't know what Beyonce's speaking voice sounds like, tonight when you go home, tuck yourself in, pull up YouTube, watch a video, and you'll be like, hey, that was a pretty good impression. But my point is, Beyonce is too powerful to be a secondary character. If you're remaking The Lion King with Beyonce, let Beyonce be the Lion King. But it is funny, Simba. They also remade this movie, What Women Want. Do you guys remember that movie? Okay, if you don't remember it, it's a movie that starred Mel Gibson. He could hear the thought. Okay, he could. Woo for Mel Gibson? Have you been in quarantine your whole life? Okay, so What Women Want is a movie that starred Mel Gibson. He could hear the thoughts of women, and he used that to treat them better. And then Mel Gibson said, this stays in the movie. Got him! So they remade the movie with Taraji P. Henson, and it's called What Men Want. And I was like, we already know what men want. What is that movie? What is it? Is it Taraji walking around, having a nice day? She sees a man, she waves, he waves back, then she hears his thought, and all it is, I want you to guzzle my cum. What is that movie? Is it just an hour and a half of her being afraid? What is it?
My role models were the grandparents in that movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I remember watching that movie as a kid and seeing the scene with the grandparents in bed and thinking, I like these people. I like what they're all about. They were in bed full time. What if we did this till we died? They weren't even watching television. They were looking at the other grandparents. How's your bed? It's good. It's good. It's the same as your bed. They were so into bed. They lived in poverty. Their grandson got a golden ticket where he could win an entire chocolate factory, and only one of the grandparents got out of bed. The other three were like, good luck, Charlie. You win the factory and make me a chocolate bed.
The reason why I love Palm Springs is because when how do I put this? When I want to practice self-care, all right? When I want to get away from it all, I like to imagine I'm a protagonist in a Nancy Meyers movie, okay? That's about when I'm trying to feel good. If you've never seen a Nancy Meyers joint like Something's Gotta Give, It's Complicated, The Holiday, whenever Diane Keaton is feeling frisky, okay? If you've never seen a Nancy Meyers joint, I will break it down for you very simply, okay? First, imagine I'm a white woman. I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 60s, I'm living in the hot flash, okay? I'm in a moment in time. My name is Margot with a T. And I'm wearing taupe. I'm wearing cream. I'm wearing beige. Yeah. Eggshell, ecru. And whatever I'm wearing is loose, but also fitted. You know? That's my vibe. And at some point in the movie, I will be sitting with my best friend drinking a California white wine. And I'll say, his new wife is how old? And that's every Nancy Meyers movie in a nutshell. That's it. Thank you.
I always wanted to live in New York when I was a kid. I'm so excited that I get to live in New York. I saw New York City in a movie when I was a kid. It was called Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. It is a sequel. Yeah, how about that movie? It was a sequel to the movie Home Alone. I remember in that movie, the kid in Home Alone 2, he gets into a stretch limousine on Fifth Avenue with a large cheese pizza, and I thought, this is the height of luxury! Now I live in New York, and I'm psyched, but that is a stupid movie title. Lost in New York, the streets are numbered. How'd you get lost in New York? I know it's kind of stupid to complain about a movie that came out 17 years ago, but I wasn't a comedian back then. So I have to do it now. I wish I'd been a Def Jam comic when that movie came out. I would have torn it to pieces. Be like, you seen this shit? You seen this Home Alone 2 Lost in New York shit? It's a grand system, motherfucker. Where you at? 24th and 5th? Where you want to go? 35th and 6th? 11 up and 1 over, you simple bitch. That'd be my big joke. That'd be the closer.
People make the dumbest decisions in horror movies. I don't get it. My favorite is when people just have to hide. That's all they have to do. They just have to hide and shut up. For an hour and a half, they can't do it. Like in that movie, A Quiet Place. Have you watched that? One of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah? The one where the aliens, they don't see anything. They just use echolocation to figure out where everyone is. There's always the people hiding in the shed, just there like... You just have to be quiet. You can just chill. You don't just be there, chilling. You have to be sitting there playing Xbox quietly. No. There's always that baby. And there'll always be the moment where you can see the monsters giving up. You know? The moment where the monster's like... And just as it's about to leave, just as it's about to go, there's always one idiot who jumps up like, I can't take it anymore! Come get me! Ah, dead. You deserved it.
Every TV show and movie was kids going, oh my God, what am I gonna wear to the prom? And I'll be like, wow, what is this prom that they speak of? It sounds amazing. Every kid in America spends their entire school lives worrying about the prom. It must be the best party ever. I want to go to America. I want to go to the prom. I want to be picked up in a limousine and given a corsage, driven to the prom, and we dance all night, and then we win King and Queen of the Prom, because in every movie, winning King of the Queen of the Prom is just amazing. Well, except in the movie Carrie, but in every other movie, winning King and Queen of the Prom is amazing. And then we leave the prom in triumph, and get in the limo, and drive to Makeout Point, and then fuck in the back of that limo. Because every movie ended with the couple in the back overlooking the city having sex. And then the movie would end before the Planned Parenthood scene.
Purple Rain, the movie, changed my life. Remember that motorcycle he had? 8 times too big for him? Remember when he pulled up to Lake Minnetonka? He's sitting on his bike, that black jumpsuit, that mane for a hairdo, that shit around the mouth, whatever the hell that was. His little boots. Size 2 boots. Apollonia? Apollonia was this guy's girlfriend's name. Could you imagine meeting this couple at a party? Like, hey, how you doing? My name's Prince. This is Apollonia. What's your name? You're like, shit, I gotta go change it.
I actually won a very prestigious award lately. Hold for applause. I won an award for leaving my home without my phone for 42 minutes. Yeah, thank you. And no, and that's not why I do it. And that's not why I do it. When I did that, I had what critics and fans alike are calling a lady in a movie moment. What's that? What's that? What could that possibly be? What is that? So, a lady in a movie moment is when something happens to you that might happen to a lady in a movie. So, for example, if you check the mail with your little key, lady in a movie. If you hold a baguette, if you're even near a baguette, lady in a movie. And if you say with me, run into your ex on the street, that is full-blown Hundy P. Lady in a movie. Thank you. Oh, it feels good to be at home. So I did recently, like a cartoon, have a lady in a movie moment. I ran into my ex on the street. And he was wearing a suit. He looked incredible, which is, as we know, illegal. And I was wearing, what's it called when you like don't shave your legs for 3 months and then you shave them really quick and there's like blood everywhere? So I was wearing that.
I rewatched the movie Sixth Sense. And I'm not trying to do a Sixth Sense joke. This is a 20-year-old movie. I also have to spoil it, but it's 20 years old. So if you don't know by now, I don't know what to tell you, you know? And don't be like, we're gonna watch it tonight. We're gonna go to Blockbuster on the way home and... So he's dead the whole time. And I don't know. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty big part of it. But for those that have, think about when you watched it. When we all saw this movie for the first time, none of us knew he was dead. That was the biggest surprise we've ever seen in our life, you know? We just thought his wife wasn't talking to him for like a year. That made more sense to us than him possibly being dead. And I was like, when I watched it, I was like, what do they show him dying? Yeah, that guy shoots him with a gun. That's how the movie's starting. That's how obvious they're like, hey, he's dead. And we still watched it for 2 hours, just like, I know what this guy's going through, you know? This is a movie about marriage and how hard marriage is. Yeah, even if you get shot, it's your fault.
We get to the movie theater. I bought the tickets, right? I bought the tickets because it's 2018. Gotta let them know. Bitches got money now. And gotta let them know. I bought the tickets, but we get to the concession. He's like, I'll buy the popcorn, Mom. I'm like, okay, $30, you know? Okay, he's never bought anything before, for sure, you know? But I said, you know what? No, I don't need my own popcorn. I'll just share with you. He's like, no, you get your own popcorn and your own soda, Mom. Okay. Okay, $30. So he steps up. He says, 2 large popcorns, 2 large drinks. The woman says, $28. Now, if I was a millennial, I'd be quick enough with the phone to get the fucking picture of that face. Because that face was more hilarious than anything I've ever said in my whole, the fucking shock. I just wanted to Snapchat his little Adam's apple. Ah, that moment made him worth it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, oh, it was priceless. It was priceless, man. We get up in the theater, 20 minutes of previews, right? 10 minutes into the actual movie, my son leans over to me, he says, you know it's just syrup, right? Soda's just syrup and they add bubbles to it, you know what I mean? was popcorn really? It's just corn. Like, he had been sitting there for 30 minutes, like having a fucking meltdown over this goddamn money. Like, what is ice water? Like, he's like fucking losing his mind. And that's what life is, man. That's what life is.